about Child's Pose. There's a few different variations of Child's Pose, and I want to make sure that you know them and you're aware of them so that you can find the right pose that's comfortable for you. I'm also going to show you some modifications for Child's Pose. So traditional Child's Pose is big toes to touch your knees. Depending on how long your legs are or how flexible your hips are going to go wider than your shoulders. Some people like to bring them as wide as the mat. I'm pretty petite, so wide as the mat is a little far for me. From here, you're going to find length in your chest. You're trying to connect your sit bones to your heels. You'll then walk your arms out nice and long in front of you and begin to allow your forehead to rest down on the mat while your hips stay connected to your heels. And then from here, you allow everything to relax and sink down into the ground. Now, for some people, that is just not accessible. So I'm going to show you a few variations. Maybe when you sit down, you have trouble even getting your hips to connect to your heels. I love using my yoga blanket for this. You can just take it and place it underneath your hips. You can use any blanket you have at home. And then from there, with that extra support, you can walk your hands out and release into your Child's Pose. Maybe the hips aren't the problem and you can get comfortable there, but you have trouble getting your head down to the ground. In this case, a yoga block is a really great option. You're going to place that in front of you, walk out, and then you'll let your forehead come down and rest on the block, using any of the levels that work for you. So you can use the highest one, the middle, or all the way down to the lowest one. And find what works for you so that you can relax into your Child's Pose. From there, the other option is what we call Embryo Pose. Now for this one, you'll bring your knees to touch and you'll bring your forehead down to the mat. Again, you can use a block if you need, and your arms are going to reach long and down by your side. That's going to allow you to release a little bit more of the low spine. So that's Embryo Pose. You can also do Child's Pose. So when your hips are wide, or knees are wide, opening your hips, you're going to get more of a hip stretch. The more narrow you bring your legs, the more of a low back stretch you're going to get. So you can bring your knees narrow and come into your Child's Pose as well. So you'll notice if I bring my knees wide, my spine is a little bit longer and my hips are getting more of a stretch. And if I bring my knees more narrow, my back rounds a bit more, and then that brings the stretch into my low spine. So that is Child's Pose, and how to safely do it with props and some of the different variations you might see.